Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on Dragoon optimization. Today I'll be discussing our optimal opener in the recent fight Futures Rewritten Ultimate and the steps taken to reach there. So where do you begin? Open a log of the fight on FFLogs, paste the following filter text which can be found in the description, and then swap to the Events tab. You will now be shown the exact amount of time for which Fatebreaker is targetable before leaving on Utopian Sky. Keep in mind that the uptime duration may change due to variance or boss positioning. Making the boss reposition from north after the tank blister will increase the expected duration by around 0.15 seconds, from 34.8 to 34.95 seconds. First, let's have a look at how our standard opener fits into this time frame. There are multiple points of interest. We're only using a single high jump, while the uptime lasts long enough for 2 high jumps. Our final Chaotic Spring combo is getting very little value from its damage over time effect, and our last action occurs much sooner than the boss goes untargetable. Tackling the first two issues can be quite simple. Using high jump earlier will allow us to gain a second usage before the downtime, although it's currently going to be outside of our damage buffs. By replacing Spiral Blow with Lance Barrage, we gain 40 potency. Chaotic Spring is being used at 30 seconds, which means that after the application delay of 0.445 seconds, the damage over time effect would last for around 4.5 seconds. At this point, we are guaranteed 1 of our 3-second dot ticks, and on 50% of runs, you will also gain the second tick, on average dealing 1.5 ticks or 67.5 potency. This means that on average, our Chaotic Spring is worth 407.5 potency, and makes Heaven's Thrust a gain of 32.5 potency. Performing a Heaven's Thrust combo at the end instead of a Chaotic Spring combo is a gain of 72.5 potency. When our final action occurs a considerable amount of time before the boss goes untargetable, it often means we can gain damage using one of the following techniques. Using Skill Speed Fu to lower our GCD time, clipping an OGCD for a gained usage or better value, such as a pre-pull high jump or weaving more than 2 OGCDs, starting combat with a macro GCD in order to delay our auto attack, or starting combat with a ranged GCD to achieve the same effect. If you would like to understand more on this topic, I have an old video on it. In our case, skill speed will give us enough time to use our next GCD, Drake's Bane, but with the long application delay of 1.65 seconds, we are nowhere near being able to actually gain any value from this at the moment. Pre-pull high jump is not required to gain an additional usage. We have not yet discussed the placement of all our OGCDs, however I will preemptively tell you that anything beyond a triple weave will not be used. Macro GCDs can only be used when you start combat in melee range, so they won't be helpful either. Ranged GCDs like Piercing Talon and Doom Spike allow us to start rolling our GCDs sooner, although delaying our standard GCD combo. Piercing Talon has a shorter application delay than Doom Spike, but since it will be enough to solve our problem, we will be using Piercing Talon. Currently, the highest value opener with everything applied would look as follows. We use an enhanced Piercing Talon at the start, so we have enough time for a 15th GCD at the end. High jump is used immediately after to gain a second usage. Lance Charge and Battle Litany have been swapped to keep party alignment and improve personal buff value. Heaven's Thrust is used instead of Chaotic Spring due to damage over time duration. Enhanced Piercing Talon is used once again to replace our final GCD, Fang and Claw. The reason we use Piercing Talon before Heaven's Thrust and not after is due to the longer application delay. Currently, this makes our opener incredibly tight, utilizing every last bit of time we have. However, this makes it impossible without boss positioning, and potentially very inconsistent with pull timings. There are multiple adjustments for this, such as using skill speed food or changing your final GCD. We will talk more about this after finishing the opener itself. At this point, the last thing to consider is the placement of our OGCDs. However, we are unable to do this without understanding the consequences of moving them later in the fight. Using the same filter text as before, we can see that following our opener is 45 seconds of downtime. This will effectively reset the cooldowns for both our 30-second cooldown high jump, as well as our 60-second cooldowns Lance Charge and Gear Skogul, regardless of where they're used inside the opener. Without diving too deeply into the later phases, I will also mention 2 more things. The Wormwind Thrust gained at the end of your opener will never be used inside of buffs, even if held for the downtime. This highly increases the value of using your buffs late into your opener. Your 2-minute cooldowns will also need to be used on cooldown for the foreseeable future, meaning we should prioritize party alignment above all else for Battle Litany. We know now that our opener will have to at least follow the OGCD placements shown now. It is important to use Dragon Fire Dive quickly, but it's not detrimental to hold it slightly, unlike Battle Litany. As we discussed, our 60-second cooldowns can be placed freely without affecting the rest of our rotation. So the most important decision is finding where to use our buffs. The highest potency that can be caught by our 60-second buffs is achieved by using them before our first Drake's Bane. Now we can start filling the empty space. We will also want to adjust our Piercing Talon, since unlike before, we can choose to replace a buffed Lance Barrage for a buffed Piercing Talon. Getting 10 more potency under our buffs is preferred in this case. I will not talk in depth about Life Surge due to how incredibly dependent it is on your kill times and goals in optimizing. However, you can choose to triple weave it alongside your buffs if this does not cause a clip. And that's all. There will always be times where an alternative is needed, however this will generally be the best performing opener and you have followed along all the steps towards reaching it. The video is not yet finished though, since I would like to discuss a few more details. First, let's return to the topic of adjusting your rotation to avoid ghosting the final GCD. Here is a short clip from my livestream, where you may notice something interesting. Below my game is a live log of the Kieran pull, which tells me the exact timing of my Piercing Talon. This means that instead of having to guess by how many milliseconds off my pull was and possibly ghosting my GCD, or resorting to a safer option that deals less potency without having to, I can always make the best choice on every pull. In order to set this up, you will have to start a live log and ensure that you enable real-time uploading. Open your log and make sure to navigate to last pull instead of manually selecting one so that it always refreshes to your current pull. Select the page that you would like to see. In this case, select yourself and go to the Cast Events tab, only displaying Piercing Talon. Now you can use a Chrome extension or any alternative to automatically have the page refresh and place it somewhere around the game or on a different display. Using this information, you can then adjust your rotation to these examples in order to minimize potency loss when the boss is pulled early. Personally, I only use the top option when I get a perfect pull time of -0.85. You will have to experiment for yourself and see what is consistent on your connection. If you're struggling to consistently end on the second listed option, I would heavily encourage starting with Skill Speed Food. This will decrease the relative potency of your opener by around 59 due to the loss in substat damage, but you can regain 22 potency off that loss with a very precise late weave of your potion to catch an extra GCD. For the last part of this video, I would like to quickly demonstrate what happens to your auto attack when using this opener. Using Piercing Talon will activate your auto attack while outside of melee range. This causes your auto attack to fail and enter a 1-second loop as described in this old video. The second auto attack attempt is still too early, which means it will drift again and your first auto attack will usually happen around 1.2 seconds. This is too late and means you will have lost an auto attack before the first downtime. The only way you can prevent losing this auto attack is by either manually disabling your auto attacks after they get enabled, or by making sure they don't get enabled at all through a focus target macro or a mouse over macro. For example, you will use your focus target macro for Piercing Talon and high jump as shown here, jump forward during your high jump, and manually enable your auto attack as soon as you enter melee range. If you do this fast enough, within around 0.7 seconds, you can gain an auto attack worth around 90 potency. And that's all I've got. Even if you may not choose to replicate what was shown in this video yourself, I hope you learned something from it or enjoyed listening. Thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.